What's up, athletes? Today, you're gonna learn 4 single strategies that'll help you to start consistently holding serve and gain confidence in your matches. This is what separates the beginners from the advanced players. Why? Simple. Rec players hold return, pros hold serve. Let me explain. See, most players at the rec level don't know how to hit their serves fast without losing consistency. And you've probably felt this for yourself before, especially when under pressure. On the serve, you're basically forced to hit a mid-pace shot high over the net and short into the court, aka into the service box. And this sets your opponent up for a perfect, deep, penetrating, heavy shot that leaves you on the defensive. And as a result, most players take turns breaking each other, and the first one to hold serve is actually the one that wins the match. But watch any pro on TV and you'll see a whole different story. The best players consistently hold serve until one of them makes one too many unforced errors and gets broken. If it's an early break, then the opponent might have a chance of breaking back, but otherwise, their chances of winning the set are pretty slim. So with that said, with these 4 single strategies, you're gonna start flying through your service games. And if you continue holding return, you might have to start finding new opponents. Or nerf your game if you wanna keep your friends. That's personally the strategy I take with Day Day. Sorry.
How dare you?
Sorry to tell you.
Expose me like this.
Now, I want to give credit to Craig O'Shaughnessy for a lot of the stats and data that's provided in this video. If you don't know who he is, go check out his blog over at braingametennis.com, which I'll leave a link to in the description below. Now, while we're talking about how to use your shots in this video, it's important to note that your ability to actually execute on these patterns is just as important. In fact, I would say that your weapons or your shots are the foundation of your entire game. It's like if I was playing a game of chess against Magnus Carlsen. If I had all the queens, only queens on the board, and he had only pawns, it doesn't matter what strategy he uses. I'm dominating.
There's no way. There's no way.
What are you talking about? I have all queens.
You'd still lose. You'd still lose. You'd find a way to lose.
Wow, you have a lot of faith in me. Just think back to the players with the highest serve win percentage. They usually also have the best serves. So developing your serve into a weapon is the single fastest way for you to start holding serve more often and therefore dominating your matches. And that's why we've designed our 5-day serve power challenge. This is the ultimate 5-day video series that's gonna get you feeling more power, it's gonna get you feeling more control, and it's gonna do it all in a pain-free way. So you can join the hundreds of others that are already enjoying the course by clicking the first link in the description below, and you'll get instant access. Can't wait to see you there. All right, strategy number 1 is based on what Craig O'Shaughnessy calls the halo effect, which shown on a graph, you'll see 2 things. First, you'll notice that the server is most likely to win the point, and second, their chance of winning is highest at the beginning of the point. Meaning, ideally, you're ending the point off the next shot right after your serve. Because by the time you hit your 4th shot and you're into a deeper rally, your chances of winning drastically go down, your advantage as the server goes away, and by that point, you basically have a 50-50 chance of winning the point. So as a server, your goal is to apply pressure on your opponent and shorten the points as much as possible. Now, this doesn't mean that you go for winners on every shot. All of us have experienced this before, this experience of being too aggressive, where you might go for a shot off the back foot on defense, or you go for an ace on a high pressure point, and if you miss, you end up losing confidence and revert back to a tighter, more tentative style of tennis. And this means if you want to play loose, confident tennis, you need patterns that you can rely on that are high percentage plays based on the stats. And this is where the serve +1 comes in. By using this strategy, you'll no longer have to rely on aces to win your points. Instead, your goal with the serve is to get a weaker return that you can then attack with a ground stroke or a volley, and either rush or stretch out your opponent, or do both. Now we're gonna go more into the in-depth nitty-gritty tactics of the different types of serve +1 patterns in the next video of this series. So if you wanna see that, let me know in the comments below and we'll start production right away. But the first simple change we can make is to simply shift our mindset, focusing more on the serve plus one as opposed to hitting hot shots or getting into fun and deep rallies. So with that said, here's one of the best drills you can use to take advantage of the halo effect. We call it the halo drill. I know, very creative. You're gonna start out by playing a tiebreaker or a match with your opponent, but there's a slight catch. The rule is, as the server, you have to end the point within the first 2 shots of hitting your serve, or you have to be finishing at the net. If you hit 3 ground strokes, then you automatically lose the point. I know, it sounds like a hard drill, but trust me, this is gonna make your real matches feel way easier. All right, strategy number 2 is the staple of modern tennis, and it's pretty simple. Hit more forehands. Specifically, you want to master the serve forehand combo. This article by O'Shaughnessy showed that Rafa has hit a forehand 77% of the time after a serve, and that's 151 times out of 195. And it wasn't like his opponents were gifting him forehands here. No, they were trying to aim for his backhand, because you'll also see that Nadal hit 65% of those forehands by running around his backhand. You just can't get it to Rafa's backhand. Now, even if you don't have a Rafa level forehand, when it comes to attacking and learning how to hold serve, the forehand just has so much potential for power and heaviness, so it's worth getting good at. So anytime you can, you want to utilize a forehand as your next shot following the serve. Now we'll make an in-depth video covering the runaround forehand in a future video, and just let me know in the comments below again if you want to see that. For now, here are a few tips you can take onto the court immediately. Step number 1 is super simple. You're going to get into your unit turn. So from your ready position, simply turn your right foot out to the side and turn your chest about 45 degrees. We call this the halfway turn. And you're gonna do this while keeping both of your hands on the racket. Now from here, step number 2, you're simply gonna cross your right leg behind your left leg. So the back leg is crossing behind the front leg, and that's gonna take you to the left. So that simple crossing move is what you'll wanna use every time in order to get around your backhand. And the faster and more efficiently you can use that movement, the better your runaround forehand is gonna be. So if the ball is really close to me, then I can very slowly do this same crossing footwork pattern, just like that. If the ball is super far on my backhand side, I'm gonna use that same exact footwork pattern, and I'll just do it faster. And the final tip number 3 here is when you finish your cross, right before you're about to swing, you want to make sure your weight, if possible, is loaded on your back leg. And from here, you can press your back hip, which is going to rotate your body forward and create the power on the shot. So I'm here, loaded up on the back, boom, and I can rotate forward. So here's one of my favorite drills to practice the serve forehand combo. It's super simple, and you won't even need a partner. You're gonna hold 2 balls, step up to the line, hit 1 serve, and then self-feed a forehand just like this. Vamos! Take that. That's right, you can also practice talking smack. I'm a certified pro smack talker. All right, strategy number 3 is to attack the net more. Just like with hitting forehands, you're statistically increasing the odds of winning the point by doing this. When you become proficient at the net, it just becomes so much easier to win points as opposed to grinding from the baseline. And you don't even need Sampras level slam dunk overheads or dive stretch volleys or masterful touch, because when you set up your volley properly, it just becomes a matter of putting away an easy floater. As you improve your serve, what you might find is that your opponents give you weaker replies more often. This will be a slower, floaty ball, and the common problem I see often is when this floaty ball comes, ironically, you end up having more time to overthink. And as a result, you don't time the shot correctly, you feel rushed, you get tight, and you end up making an unforced error. And there are two parts to this problem. The first one, of course, is the technical execution. And we've made multiple videos on how to crush those short balls, which I'll link to in the description below. But there's also a tactical side here. There are two common mistakes I see players making when that floaty ball comes. Mistake number one is to try to hit a backhand when you can really run around and hit your forehand. Usually on these floaty balls, you have more time, so ideally you get into the forehand unit turn and you use that crossover footwork pattern we talked about earlier. And mistake number two is to go for a winner. A lot of the times players overdo, or as Rick Macy likes to say, overcook the shot here. And this leads to tightness and unnecessary unforced errors. So you really don't need to go for much on this approach shot. Just put a lot of spin on the ball, get it deep, and hit it with enough spin so that the ball dips down. You can use the simple strategy of approaching down the line and finishing at the net, or if your opponent has a particularly good forehand passing shot, then you can simply attack their backhand or go deep down the middle so that they don't have any angles to work with. From here, you'll want to cover their cross-court shot and pick away the next ball like Federer does here. And by the way, can we just take a moment to appreciate the greatest moment in tennis commentary history?
What's that?
That's what you were talking about. And he's got those reflexes like a mongoose on amphetamines.
Was that supposed to be a compliment? Oh, and you can also mix in the serve and volley as a secondary pattern, and we'll make a full in-depth video just on the serve and volley in a future video of this strategy series. Now, inevitably, your opponents will get a few good returns in, especially if you're hitting your second serve. And in this case, if your opponent is just demolishing every ball, they're just stretching you out in every which way, then you have two options. One, you can go over onto the other side and cripple your opponent just to level the playing field. Or number two, you can improve your serve. Personally, I like to take option one. It's the easier route. Instant results. But on a serious note, typically if you have an effective serve, then your opponent's options for returning are going to be a little more limited. Specifically, their best location is going to be to go deep cross court or deep down the middle. And this is what you'll see top returners like Djokovic or Medvedev doing against effective servers. Luckily for us, that narrows our options. We don't need to be stretched out in every direction, and instead, if we position ourselves well, all we have to do is redirect pace effectively. This is one of the things that made Federer so dangerous. Obviously, his serve was one of the best. But even if you got a good return, his ability to redirect that shot off the rise gave him such a huge advantage. Now, against these more aggressive, deep returns, you won't have time to cross over and hit your forehand every time. But the good news is that you may actually find it easier to redirect the shot with your backhand. This is because the backhand tends to be more compact, and especially with the two-hander, you've got two hands on the racket and you can be very stable just blocking the ball back. On the forehand side, I see a lot of players getting jammed, especially if you have a big backswing or you have an extreme grip. So to deal with these deeper returns, you'll want to focus on compacting your backswing and really focusing on making a good contact point. On both sides, when you're dealing with pace, all you really have to do is make a good contact point and extend through your shot, and you'll likely redirect the ball effectively. So focus on getting that clean contact point and try to aim the ball deep down the middle or cross court. It's important that you don't go for any winners here because you're not on balance and you'll likely make an unforced error. The main goal here, because you're in a more defensive situation, is to not make an unforced error and to not float the ball and give your opponent the advantage. Now, a good way to practice redirecting the ball is to simply isolate hitting second serves to one spot of the box. This is going to allow your opponent to focus on returning the ball deep, either by taking the ball early or staying back and ripping it. And your goal here is going to be to redirect this shot cross court or deep down the middle. Now, these are, of course, the principles or the underlying strategies behind how to hold serve. But we haven't yet talked about the nitty-gritty strategies. Where do you serve? Where do you hit that forehand? Where do you finish with your volley? And that's exactly what we're breaking down in part 2. So if you want to see the 5 singles tactics to holding serve, then let me know in the comments below. And in the meantime, go check out our 5-day serve power challenge. And it's really the fastest way for you to reach the 4.5, 5.0, or even higher level. So click the first link in the description below and get instant access. And as always, until next time, go out and train hard. I'll see you in the next video.